Can start. Perfect. Welcome to everyone. I'm Thaisa, part of the GEN team, and I'm very happy to welcome all of you here. I'm together with our team members, Bruna and Chris, and we will be co-facilitating this session with amazing partners who will introduce their schools and projects. We are all at this point part of the Regenerative Twinning Schools project. In GEN, we started to get closer to this school area in many ways, mostly in projects. And for the last, let's say, 2 years, we have been exploring the connections, the interconnections between communities and schools. We came up with a series of webinars last year, and this year we are very happy that we got a project. So we got a small fund to move forward and to develop the Twinning Schools project. Our presenters today are all part of that project, plus some others that are around here, and I hope you will get a chance to get to know each other. The idea for today is that we will have the 4 of them presenting. Each one will have around 15 minutes. And after each presentation, we will open for a few questions. If there are more questions and interest, we can open at the end to hear other voices. Otherwise, we also want to do some more, let's say, reflections and interactions together. So we hope we have time to get into a breakout room at the end to chat in small groups. That's our plan for today. We are prepared for about 2 hours session. So there are people still connecting, but I think we are ready to go. And I'm very glad to welcome Lorian from Kutumba, Ecovillage in South Africa, and also Graham. You can further introduce yourselves, please, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Thaisa. It's wonderful to be here and see all your faces. Thanks for joining. Yeah, my name's Lorian, and Graham, who's also on the call here, will be presenting for you from Kutumba. I've got a short video to start with. So I've put the link, it's a Vimeo link in the chat, and you can click on it and play it from Vimeo, or I will also play it from my share screen so you can see what works better for you. But maybe make a decision now so you don't have to go in and out, and then I will just pause after the video is finished so you can come back to Zoom if you have gone out. Okay, I'm going to get started. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to wait a moment. Kaisa, maybe you can cue me when you think it's a good time to go.
Yeah, I think we are with you. Just go ahead.
Great. Okay, cool. Thanks. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Lorian, and I'm living and working here in Kutumba. And along with Graham and others, we're developing and evolving our community's learning journey. And we'd like to share the story with you so far. Kutumba is a relatively small community, and educationally, the element is quite young.
Lorian, can I briefly interrupt you? I would recommend you to stop share your screen.
Okay.
Just so we can see you while you are talking. And then if you're going through the slides, you go through the slides, just so we can see you a little bit, or you're going to do everything at the same time. It's up to you.
I was going to do everything at the same time.
Okay, so let's move forward. Sorry.
Okay,
and anyone who would like to see Lorian a bit bigger can also slide the bar in between the video and the presentation to see her face a bit bigger and readjust in order how you need to see the presentation or Lorian. So
perfect. Thank you all. Perfect. Over to you, Lorian. Sorry.
Okay, cool, no problem. Okay. So I guess that this is a story of curiosity and emergence. But that said, Kutumba Ecovillage is a little older, and it's really experiencing a coming of age. It was founded in 1993 and to be a center for healing and education. And as you can see, it's situated in a beautiful part of South Africa on the East Coast, in an area called the Garden Route, which is known for its gentle climate and lush forests. Kutumba is situated on a plateau ridge above a deep and densely forested valley and gorges, an Afro-montane forest, in a rural village called the Crags. And as you can see in the video, we're really blessed to be immersed in this incredible indigenous Afro-montane forest and wild piece of coastline, which gives us a remarkable elemental playground and a place of learning full of richness. And it really, we can use the edge effect here. So Kutumba has around 38 plots of land. Each are privately owned, and most of which now have been developed by residents. The population of the full-time residents has been at times fairly low until 2019. There were about 15 or 20 people here. It was really difficult to create a livelihood in a world that was yet to take on the online work culture that's now become so ubiquitous in the past 2.5 years. And especially if you had kids and you had to drive into the nearest town, Plettenberg Bay, to get the education that you wanted. And the number of children living in Kutumba was too low to make it an on-site facility viable. So in 2019, there were only 2 children living here in the village, one of whose family was actually in the process of migrating to Plettenberg Bay to get to schools. So then late in 2019, we were a small group of families. We all lived in Cape Town. We all had children. We all shared an interest in self-directed learning. And we realized that the way we wanted to raise our kids was not easily supported by the nuclear and individualistic family systems in the city. So I think at this point, I'm going to speak briefly to self-directed learning for those who aren't as familiar. It is a blanket term, and I don't like that. But it's useful. Certainly, it does limit us to use a blanket term, but it is useful to kind of give an idea because it forms a large part of our approach. So self-directed learning is a process of supporting and allowing a child, or an adult for that matter, to have greater responsibility over their education and learning, rather than just doing what they are told. So there's unlimited opportunity to play and explore their interests, access to tools of the culture, which could be anything from barbecue tongs and a fire to a tablet or a computer. And importantly, there's a variety of caring adults that are helpers and not judges. There's free age mixing between children to promote learning from both younger and older children. An immersion in a stable, moral and democratic community. And they have an awareness that their actions affect others and they are responsible for themselves, but also that the community that they are developing. It's a place where living and learning are not separate, and the focus is on the process and not the outcome. So learning is no longer a linear process confined to the intellect only, but it also allows space for the wholeness of the human experience to come through and to be seen and to be supported. And while it isn't a rejection of curriculum at all, and we can certainly stand and do stand on the shoulders of giants, the emphasis is more on how to think as opposed to what to think, and how to learn as opposed to what to learn. For me, self-directed education is liberation work. It's certainly like a way that I parent for social change. It's also a place where I feel I can advocate for the rights of children as whole people and practice democracy. We practice democracy, nonviolent communication. We cultivate a culture of care and cooperation, and this is allowed to emerge. And it's a big shift away from the power over dynamic that's very prevalent in, especially in relationship to children and between adults and children. So it definitely is a regenerative form of education. It does not assume what is right, and it's not coercive. It allows a child to get in touch with and pursue their interests and their loves, and follow that truth and choose how they want to show up in the world. It helps them to get in touch. It supports them with getting in touch and understanding their own essence. And so in that way, the unique individual in each child is allowed to emerge and be supportive. And it is also regenerative because it supports a lifelong love of learning, which is totally natural to humans if it isn't interrupted. It's a highly relational approach. So healthy connection and relating with parents, the environment, physical and natural environment, with peers and facilitators is of the utmost importance. So clearly this kind of facilitation, this requires quite a different kind of facilitation and a very a rich environment, a nurturing culture, a different lifestyle for sure. Then that's what's generally on offer in the nuclear family living in the city. So the desire we had as parents in Cape Town made us think about what sort of environment and lifestyle would support this experience for our children, but perhaps even more importantly, what would support it for us as parents. And increasingly, it became clearer that all roads led to intentional community. So in 2019, we began a process of creating an intentional community that was centered around self-directed learning for children. And we were a small and well-resourced group, which with clear alignment, so things moved pretty quickly. And by the end of the year, our group had of 4 families had purchased land at Kutumba and began a process of migrating. And then, of course, the COVID lockdowns were announced, and we were already actually all on the land, and work was underway. During the lockdowns, other families who were also looking for options outside of the city and more freedom, that could give them more freedom. Our presence here at Kutumba really drew them to the village. And by the end of 2020, there were 10 children living here. And so the question of how to facilitate their development and provide space for parents who are working came to the fore. So at the moment in Kutumba, there are 3 structured learning and childcare facilities. There's the Nest, Forest Circle, and the Monday Club. And definitely these things are influenced by many pedagogies. To name a few: self-directed learning, forest schools, Waldorf, Montessori, Reggio Emilio, regenerative systems design, and permaculture. And here, like, the goal is to have fun, to create an atmosphere of love and respect, support a love of learning. And the facilitators build layers into the children's learning by pulling on their own interests and the resources and nature around them. And the emphasis is on creating neutral, safe space for self-expression and to feel seen and heard. I'll quote some from some values from the Forest Circle as an example. So, respect the values of the child, see the child and ourselves as whole, hold awareness of the tendency to control and dominate in the adult-child relationship, connect to inner stillness, practice active listening, allow for independence and space to explore, and what is in front of you is the teacher. So the Nest is run twice a week. It's a parent collective with an external and paid facilitator, and it caters for the toddler years. Forest Circle is also run twice a week, and it's run independently by 3 parents in the community and is for mixed ages. The Monday Club is run once a week and is a parent-led on a rotation basis for the older children who want a deeper dive into their interests and has a project-based learning approach. And yeah, it's really important to name the rich tapestry of learning that community life affords. So here, you know, surrogate grandmothers will be providing crafting or permaculture clubs. Local artists will give art lessons. Local hunter will teach fishing and life skills. Local carpenter will be showing us how to build a table, a door, a floor, or even a house. And community members, they see community members building their own homes or from scratch or retrofitting an existing house. A local beekeeper working with bees, making music and singing with the community musician. Our children witness adults calling meetings, practicing nonviolent communication, and conflict transformation. And these opportunities are obviously not limited to the children, and this education spreads like wildfire through our community. The gift of how all of this is held by caring people that you know and trust, who celebrate your birthdays, your triumphs, and your failures, is also immense. And then important is to speak to the third teacher, which is nature, and the majesty and richness of this landscape, and its peace and its chaos is profound. The lessons are for sure endless. The monkeys will steal your food, the bush pigs will uproot your freshly sown seeds, the bees and butterflies will pollinate your garden, and the birds and frogs will arrive at certain times of the year. Some snakes will bite, some won't. Rivers will flow to the sea, the tides go in and out. Sharks are washed up on the shore. There are fish to catch in the lagoon and octopuses to watch in the rock pools. And this landscape has actually supported humans for thousands of years. We regularly dig up stone tools here. From our home, we can walk to an archaeological cave where people lived when the sea line was 10 kilometers further out. Sometimes we can camp in another cave where our ancestors have set their fires for thousands of years, to name but a few elements. So nearly two years down the line, our children and their parents' needs are growing and evolving. And so the next phase is calling us as we seek to grow from our experiences. Serendipity and the timing of the Gen Schools twinning project, which I'm very grateful for, we're very grateful for, and our work with our twin Kubakinza is inspiring and helping us to map our way forward. In a similar vein, we've also connected with Shivani and Alan Mashala from the Reimagined Learning Center, which is an established self-directed learning center in Johannesburg. And we are very excited that they will be joining our community and creating a learning center together with us. The intention is to broaden our context into the extended local community of the Crags, and catering for more children and celebrating and expanding into the richness of the South African context. We wish to create a culture of connection, curiosity, and collaboration, and to share the beautiful jewels in our path. So this is the next point of our growth forward. And while the way isn't crystal clear, it's certainly calling. And as we are not a thing, we are a process, and thus naturally ever expanding. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Wow, thank you. Amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Lovely. So back to our main room. We are a little bit ahead of time, so let's hear maybe one or two questions, insights, reflections, feedback for Lorian and her team. What can we share? Mugovi, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. Yeah, it's really amazing work that you are doing, very exploratory work. So I really admire what you are doing. Just some two questions. The first one is the name Kutumba, what it means, or whether it is, what are its origins. And then the second question is on the dynamics of mixing the children across the age groups. What have been your observations in terms of children of different ages playing and learning together? Do they tend to stick in those mixed age groups, or do they tend to sometimes separate according to the age groups? So just your experience of that dynamic. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for those questions, Mugabe. And yeah, great honor to hear that from you as well. Thank you. So Kutumba is a name that the founder came up with, and it is partly inspired by teachings that she experienced from someone called Kutumba, but it in short means bird of light. And yeah, we certainly have many beautiful birds in this area, but I guess it's a spiritual meaning as well. So to speak to the mixed ages, yeah, so I think it's both. Certainly children gravitate to their peers, but the richness, that is, it's not exclusive at all. So because it's so relational, and because you create a culture of collaboration, there's a motivation to support one another's interests. So for example, my son is 7, and recently when we were at Shivani and Anna Mashallah Center in Joburg, a boy who was 14 came up to him and was like, so what are your interests? You know, he was curious what are his interests, and oh, okay, you like Hot Wheels. Okay, have you heard of Roblox? And so here's a 14-year-old boy who's immediately found a connection because of similar interests. So then he wants to show him and teach him how. So I think that the children connect a lot along interest lines. And then with the very young children, I've noticed that often the teenage or the older kids, the oldest kids, will take on quite a caring role. So you'll have like maybe like a 16-year-old boy will sit and holds a 2-year-old because he's just, that's, you know, just loving and caring, and they'll be looking at and doing something together and looking at the same thing. But yeah, the other thing I noticed, like sometimes certain kids will gravitate to, like there'll be a group of 4-year-olds playing, and 4-year-old girls, and they're making mud and doing all their, making their mud pies and everything. And then there was one boy who was like their assistant, you know, and he didn't really want to play with them, but he wanted to find a way of collaborating. So he would bring the water, and then he would go off and do his own thing, and then he'd come back and check on them. And you know, he's like an 8-year-old boy, and they're not even his sisters. So I think that, yeah, the age mixing is quite a profound aspect, because they certainly learn, the elder children learn from the younger children, and the younger children are learning from the older children, and it creates quite a natural culture. Yeah, so I hope that answers. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. And I guess we can move forward. And if there are other questions, you just write it down on the chat, and then Lauriane can respond, or we can try to answer at the end. So we keep our schedule on time because we have so many guests